Welcome to Elena's Barre Low Impact Full Body Workouts. On this channel you find different format workouts that will help you to tone up your muscles, improve your posture, gain overall strength, endurance, balance and flexibility. Check more classes on Elena's Barre Patreon. Join us for my crazy piano practice on Sundays. We also talk about controversial topics that can trigger you. You participate in our conversations voluntarily at your own risk. Read the disclaimer in the description box. If you don't want to be mentally or physically challenged, I suggest that you skip this video. Thank you so much for your understanding. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to Elena's Barre and welcome to the Resurgence. This is the new YouTube channel that my husband, Plutarch, Steven Sandman, and Nick from Christianity Unplugged created. And yesterday they had their first live stream, which I think was a success, guys. I really enjoyed your show yesterday. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Today we are talking about accountability and how men and women avoid accountability in different ways. And Steven Sandman proposed this topic. So yeah, let's dive in. Let's welcome our subscribers here. Thank you, Siege, for joining us today. Yes, he already watched it. Guys, please go subscribe to the Resurgence, support this new YouTube channel that guys are doing. Okay, we have more people joining us. See cousins, welcome back. And accountingship, as always, it's a pleasure to see you guys. Yeah, thank you for stopping by. Remember to share your observations throughout the live stream. Who wants to start with accountability? I'll give a word to Steve. Yeah. It was your topic, so yeah.
Okay, so I've thought about this, and I recognize men and women avoid. We all avoid accountability at times, but the behavior in doing it is different. Nick and I had a little bit of discussion while we were waiting to start. But instead of me telling what my observation is, let's go around and see what other people think. How do men and women avoid accountability how is their behavior different when they're avoiding accountability? That's the question.
I'll start. Kind of what we talked about. I think, you can see and observe that men, they do tend to blame shift a bit, but they try to rationalize it away. Women, when they're trying to be held accountable by men, you will tend to see skirting around the problem, appeal to feelings, appeal to experience, and finding ways never to stay on topic. So that's kind of basically how I see it's different. Is that it's a women tend to want to evade addressing the problem and bring other things in instead of staying on the main thing.
Well, and I also noticed that, men tend to be more rational when it comes to solving problems because they have no priority to avoid and skip their problems and lay them on somebody else. I see that men are suffering more consequences for their own problems that they create for themselves. Women often get bailed out. This is why they don't really care, This is why they shift away from problems. But that's just my opinion. Eamma, what do you think?
Yeah, people do avoid it because nobody likes to be wrong, do they? Or, I'm one of the rare ones that actually doesn't mind being held to account, and I will quite often hold my hands up to my own behavior. So yeah, I don't really give it a lot of thought to how other people do it, if you know what I mean. I know when I've tried to hold other people accountable, it's always met defensively, and it's not that, people don't want to admit they're the problem or creating a problem.
Plutarch, what do you think?
Well, I actually think Eamma said something interesting there. She said, you know, that she's like, oh, well, I'll hold my hand up, but I see other people, they just sort of, it wasn't even blame shifting. They just sort of try and get out of it. You know, like they don't want to, they don't want to even admit that they were wrong.
Mm.
And that is probably of the two for both sides of this. Neither side wants to admit that they're wrong. Now, men can be held accountable. And if, and if a man kind of holds another guy to account, we will say, okay, fine, you're right. But it's sort of this exasperated, well, whereas women, when you're not used to being held to account, and the funny thing is, Elena, I'm gonna throw you under the bus here a little bit, because when I'm trying to hold you to accountability, the first thing you do is you try and come up with a reason why it wasn't really you. that there's some other reason going on there, and then when that doesn't work, what you do is you will of course do what other women do, and that is bring up something else that I did. So that's the blame shifting. And then after we work through that and how that doesn't really work, then I can get you to fine, yes, and that's okay. It's not a dig. But I think it goes back to the lack of consequences that we're just not used to. Either side is not used to, because I see men squirrel around too. They're different about it. They're going to try. Men try to minimize the problem. Women try to shift the problem.
Well, let me. I just kind of thought of something. Okay, about a month ago, I was driving my truck, and it was a sunny day, and I'm just tooling down, going 68 miles an hour. Man, the speed limit was 60. So I meet the sheriff deputy, and head on, and oh shit. So I look in my rearview mirror. Damn, lights are on. Okay, that's it. So I just pull over, and he comes up. And they usually are pretty nice to truckers. You're nice to him. And so he runs all my information, and he decides he's going to give me a warning. And, we were having a good time. I said, yeah, I hate days like this because the sun is shining. It's nice and warm, and you're feeling good, and you're just tooling down the road. So was that blame shifting? Well, that was kind of excuse. I blamed things, events. Women, and I think that's what Plutarch said, when they shift blame, there's some form of MDTT. Men do that too. Or what about Demendo? So it's blaming a person, whereas a man will tend to blame things or circumstances more so. I mean, these are generalizations, and there's always exceptions. So what do you think of that distinction?
I agree.
I agree. I think there's a lot of men starting to do the shifting too, and I think there's a reason for that.
You mean men behaving like women?
Oh yeah,
sure. And
you're raised by single mommies,
right?
And they have low T.
Well, you do what you know, and if all you ever know is blame shifting, it might not occur to you to blame events. That's something they'd have to pick up from another guy. Dad.
Well, right, but how many dads are superfluous? They are not around to teach boys how to be accountable. I totally get what Nick is saying, because today most kids are raised by single mothers, and they can't teach children accountability. they just can't, because nobody really holds them accountable. So you can't teach somebody that you are not.
What? The helicopter moms don't teach accountability. They're hovering on there and oh, somebody don't, you got to wear a helmet, you got to do this, you got to do that. Oh, you fell down. Oh, we're going to sue somebody. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
teach it. And it applies to boys too, because they essentially raise defective girls out of boys. They raise boys in the same way as they raise girls. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
they
that
do.
both of them behave in the same way, and then we are surprised why grown-ups are not accountable, or they try to avoid accountability at all costs, because they are not being taught it when they were little. Because if nobody holds you accountable when you're growing up, how are you supposed to know that there are consequences to your own bad decisions when parents constantly bail you out?
That's a problem that just applies to people. I mean, you've hit on a people problem here. And the thing is unfortunately, and I've seen this happen, you can have, even where, because we have multiple generations now of men who've been raised by single women, even if the man gets married, he can still raise a kid that behaves like this now. I'm not saying they all do, but like now it's so we've been doing this for so long that it's no longer just enough to have a dad. You need to have a dad who is willing to hold you to account.
Well, and this is kind of what I was saying, that dads today are superfluous. Nobody really listens to them. They don't have any authority in the family, because mother is presiding. She takes all of the decisions for everyone. Even if dad wanted to, like, what are the consequences for him?
Well, no, what I'm saying is dad doesn't know that he should anymore. Because his mom raised him.
Yeah, right.
So dad doesn't even know that he should do this. I am not saying this is true of all dads. I'm not saying this is even true of all moms. But when you raise a society this way, this is what happens. They don't even know that they should.
There's feminization of the church and feminization of society, and then all the courts are kind of feminized. So if a man holds somebody accountable, especially a woman or a wife, and does some type of discipline or gets upset with somebody or raises his voice, he can easily be accused of abuse.
Yep.
So I think sometimes men are just afraid to exercise their authority. And women, on the other hand, since they have no experience being disciplined or held accountable, same kind of thing, women fear they won't be loved if they're to blame or if they take account, if they're held accountable. They've failed, therefore, it's just an irrational fear they won't be loved. So somehow a father holding kids accountable, let's say daughters, and some form of discipline to correct it, and there's consequences, but loving the child through that and saying, okay, this doesn't affect my love for you. That's just there. You can be accountable, and I can discipline you without you worrying that I'm not going to love you.
Yeah, the father chastens those whom he loves, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's even kind of difficult for me to say that father disciplines wife or kids, because that's kind of a scary thing to come out and say, even publicly say.
Discipline doesn't always mean, physical.
Well, I didn't say punishment. Discipline is different than punishment.
Right. Right.
Well, discipline is teaching somebody to get up at the same time every day. That's a discipline, right?
Yeah.
Is that a punishment?
Certainly not.
Right.
In a feminist mindset, it would be. You can't tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Well, of course, because getting up at the same time every day, oh, that just that's my independence. I get to choose what I want to do.
Right.
Yeah, a man holding a woman to any sort of standard is, basically some sort of like controlling abuse or narcissism, apparently. So women,
Mm,
I mean,
I,
we've pretty much gone that far. You can turn anything into that. So,
Yeah, you're a controlling man.
and that's a deflection. It's a deflection from being personally responsible.
I have to be honest, I don't understand what's so bad about being responsible. What is wrong with discipline and responsibility?
well,
Why is that? Why are there such terrible terms?
it contradicts the feminist primary agenda that you are special and unique and you are perfect the way you are. Because watch this, discipline requires that you constantly improve and work on yourself, right? You get up at the same time, you do the same work that doesn't necessarily feel nice at the moment, but you still do it. You do something that you don't like sometimes, right, in order to stay disciplined. But feminism teaches women, and not only women but also men, that you do what you like, what pleases you, what brings you joy and happiness. So it kind of contradicts the discipline here.
So you're saying that they're a slave to that? How dare anybody take away them being able to live out their empowered self?
Yes, pretty much. It contradicts the feminist ideology, and because they are so possessed by it, their belief system can't let go of the feminist utopia and ideals. They are trying to avoid at all costs their accountability and doing the right things.
Do you guys remember there was a girl on TikTok a few months ago who went viral for talking about how it was unfair that her workplace required her to show up on time because she had something that called time blindness, which I'm not convinced is a thing.
It goes hand in hand with ADHD.
Okay.
You give somebody a 5-minute time limit. There's a reel about it. Explains it. I'll send it to Elena. She can show it to you.
Please do.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then here's what I would say to that. If you have a legitimate medical problem, and I am in a business that requires a certain sort of regularity that problem just you can't do it, then you're in the wrong field. You need to go find a job that you can do with this condition, because it is what she was really doing then is saying, I have a problem, but I want to do this job and you owe me this job.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to put up with this medical problem. Look, I am not saying that people don't have legitimate medical conditions that prevent them from doing certain work. They do.
Time blindness isn't a condition, it's rather a symptom.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
but so it's a symptom that as a result of a condition that means that it's difficult for you to perform tasks, certain tasks in a certain manner. Okay.
Like with anything, you can learn to manage it. Like if you know you're going to always be late, you set your alarm, 10, 15 minutes early, so you think you're running late and end up on time.
So discipline then.
Yeah. Right.
So I've heard in a related note, both men and women, I've heard some of these celebrities call this like why they can't be faithful to their spouses. I think both men and women, but I don't know. It's a few years. You ever heard like, "Oh, I'm a sex addict"?
Yeah.
Them say that.
Oh,
you ever heard of that?
Yeah. Yes to that.
It is. Well, but see, we've actually hit on a. Right? Yes, Siege, just set all your clocks half an hour earlier.
You should,
Mhm.
see how many alarms I have set on my my phone for various things to remind me to do them. I don't always do them straight away on time, but yeah.
I have multiple alarm clocks in the
Yeah,
morning.
I know.
You sound thrilled about that.
Yes. No. Okay, but that it takes discipline to be able to do that. And so if accountability is just the other side of discipline. If you don't have the discipline, you're going to be held accountable. In this case. So that's just why I brought it up, because it's discipline is I'm not allowed to say, oh, you have to give me this thing because I want it. Oh, and by the way, I have a problem that's going to prevent me from actually doing it. Sorry.
Well, then you are not competent. You shouldn't be doing that job. What's the problem? Go raise kids or do something else, you know?
Well, there's lots of jobs that can be done without strict adherence to time. Strict adherence to time is a very masculine job-oriented thing. Like,
Well, that's another thing I noticed, guys. Women introduce themselves into male spaces, and I think Stephen brought it up throughout our discussions earlier in other live streams. When you say that women want to compete with men, they want to do the men's jobs, right? Sort of, kind of, you know. So they introduce themselves into male environment, and then when people start holding women to higher standards because we hold men to higher standards, women are whining and complaining. They say, no, you are supposed to change all of your rules, all of your guidelines, but don't change them for men, only change them for me because I demand so.
Well, yeah, you're rude. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't mind what you're saying. You know, your intent is okay, but the way you're saying it is bad. So that excuses me.
It's ad hominem, basically. So you're start attacking the person and the feels rather than the actual argument, and you basically that's another way of evading like that of women not wanting to stay on topic. It's an evade shifting.
They wouldn't
Shifting
admit
the
that,
problem.
yes, I screwed up. How can I fix it, right? What can I do to improve the situation? No, I'll blame you, everybody else.
Well, there's that Bible verse, let your yes, either answer yes or no. Anything more is from the devil, or anything more is evil.
Right.
How many women, and you know, a lot of men too, you ask them a question, it's yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Can they answer with a yes or no?
No.
Hey, the cookie jar is broken. Did you break the cookie jar?
Oh,
Yes
Yep.
or no? Well,
When it starts with well.
uh-huh. Long response for a simple answer. I've been guilty of that.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of it too. And we need to own that stuff. It's okay to say, yep,
Yes, I did it.
I stuck my hand in the cookie jar and it got caught. Darn it.
Oh, Sheep says, answers with another question. Yeah, this is deflecting when you're changing the subject. And women are good at this. I've been watching some shows with those whores, you know.
Well, and Sheep, that's a tough one because
Mhm.
sometimes it's necessary to answer a question with another question.
Gravity broke the cookie jar.
In the technical physics of it, yes, I guess gravity was the one that.
Right.
Very clever. I'm going to remember that one.
That's good. That's good.
So you know, it's like we don't have like we have to be careful here because I do sometimes answer a question with a question, and the intent is to say, okay, you're asking me this question, but it's like, I already know the answer, but I'd like to turn this into a teaching moment. And now I tend to do this not necessarily when I'm being accused of something, but it's something that what I don't want to see any of this stuff turned into is a hard and fast rule. And I think that's something that we struggle with. We say, oh, just as humans, we say, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't say that because you're just trying to turn it around on me. Well, am I? Is there really a problem here? Okay. Maybe.
Oh, guys, check this one. Why do you care if the cookie jar is broken? You didn't want me to buy that one anyway.
So there's one extreme example of avoiding accountability that Nick and I are familiar with.
Yeah, it's the very first.
And that is when you get involved in a divorce and
that one.
there is lack of accountability there. But the woman develops a narrative. She makes accusations, sometimes just blatantly false. Other times, she'll tell 50% truth. Well, he yelled at me. Okay, well, that might be true.
Why
and then she
did he
said
yell
that's
at you?
abusive, and therefore I had to do this. Or Christian women, since he yelled at me and that's abusive, I'm justified in divorcing him, even though I'm a good Christian and the church should still accept me as being a good Christian. But it's just egregious blame shifting. And in divorce, women can even go so far as to trigger things that may result in the husband's death. I mean, my ex-wife refused to give me my survival pack for, when I'm driving the truck in the winter. I got, insulated coveralls and stuff in there. She would not give that to me.
You do need those up there where you're at.
I think she was hoping that I'd go in the ditch and freeze to death.
Yep.
But then, hey, wouldn't it be convenient if I died? Because then she'd end up with everything, and I couldn't defend myself, and she'd all be justified.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the institutions that we have now, they blindly trust women. Every single word that comes out of a woman's mouth must mean that she's right. They never ask a woman or anybody in that situation, why did your husband scream at you, right? They immediately, no, we don't care about the reasons. Well, I know Nick, but they don't care about the reasons why the husband was trying to discipline her or why did he raise his voice on her, right? They just like, no, what she says must be true. And this is why we trust her. And this is why it's a man's fault because he raised his voice. Doesn't matter what a woman did. Maybe she nagged him to death. Maybe she was calling him names to.
Or in my case, she was hitting me.
Well, right.
Yeah. So, okay, if the first time around she's not believed, what does she do next?
Embellish on it.
What does she do next if her story isn't believed the first time?
Well, she
Eamma said
down.
Embellish on it.
Yeah.
And
make it bigger.
And get more emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And start crying.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's crying, he obviously it must be real then.
Yeah, there's a reason why they don't want to hold these women accountable, though, because they'll double down. But even if you put them they tend not to want put with these women on the stand. But even if they put them on the stand, they don't want to charge them with perjury anymore when they should.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, Nick, there's another problem here too, because men are the ones that. Okay, so something happens, you know, and the girl starts crying. Okay, what always happens next? Men come rushing to the aid of the crying woman.
White knighting Simpery.
Well, right, but
it's also instinctual, I think, for men to.
It is instinctual, but this is men who they're not like to hold somebody to account. Like there's a reason why we have trials. You cannot just rush in and hold somebody accountable without stepping back, turning on your rational brain and looking at the whole situation. And so this one is actually more for men. Guys, part of being responsible and disciplined and accountable is not just rushing in when the tears start flowing, not just rushing in. I'm thinking about the thing with Andrew Wilson and the two girls lately, where those two did not just rush in when the girls started crying and the girls got even more angry. Okay, but that's what proper accountability looks like. Brian did nothing wrong. Andrew did nothing wrong. And they're just kind of looking at each other, at these girls having a meltdown going, fascinating.
Well, that's a good study in accountability, because it was Lindsay and Kendall, the two Christian Jesus loves you t-shirt sales people. They didn't even really they didn't verbally tangle with Andrew much at all. Andrew was having some pretty direct conversations with the other women, and they were talking about body count and sexual things. Those women were not even asked or called on those things, but somehow afterwards they went on the attack. And my theory is they were self-identifying with the women who were called on these things for their past behavior and internalized it. And if you're criticizing that woman for that behavior, I've done that, so therefore I'm feeling guilty. And so I can't stand being guilty, so I'm going to attack you for making me feel guilty, and I'm going to invent all these things and show that you're a bad person. And it's avoiding accountability for something they weren't even accused of.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily need to be accused of that. If they see one girl on these shows, like whatever, Fresh and Fit, like Access Vegas sometimes, these girls, they see if somebody is pushing on another girl, and like you mentioned, that girl notices that she has done the same things. She sees another girl. They start defending each other. This is part of the sisterhood, like sisterhood of Viralis. You can't attack my girlfriend because I've done the same things, and it's coming from guilt. I think you kind of nailed it.
Expand on that.
Yeah.
You want to expand on that, Steve? How they do that based on guilt?
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of women's desire to avoid accountability is about they have guilt, they have secrets that they don't want to know, and if they came out, they would feel shame, and maybe they wouldn't be loved. And the more significant the guilt, the more nasty they're willing to act to prevent anybody from finding out. And I'm still, I'm the guy who said, hey, there's 3 areas: infidelity, promiscuity, and abortion. Those are the things that women feel the most guilt about. And if you start to expose a woman's past in any of those areas that there's something there, wow, just watch out. You will be attacked.
That's a very
Yeah.
good point.
Mm-hmm.
And how many women? Okay. 100%. Supposedly, 1/3 of women have had an abortion.
Wow. Is it that high?
Well, I've heard it said that high, but even if it's
Wow.
even if it's 20%, there's a lot out there. And don't kid yourself. Christian women and Catholic women have a lot of abortions too, because it's very they would be feel shamed if they had the baby out of wedlock, and this is probably true more 20, 30 years ago. But in order to cover up their promiscuity, they would have an abortion and not tell anybody, but then that guilt will follow them through in life, and that's going to be triggered by all kinds of things in the future.
I just thought about something, guys. These women who commit abortions or they have kids out of wedlock, they need the cuckold. They need their husbands to not pay attention to what they are doing. And when their husbands become aware, and guys are trying to expose their nature on these shows, right? That, oh, like you cheated on your husband, you conceived a baby with somebody that's not your husband, right? It makes them look really bad. And then I think what they are scared of is they are scared of losing the providing husband, the cuckold that they are with right now. They don't want their husbands to find out how devious women are, like what women are capable of. This is why we see a lot of pushback from women, especially the ones who are single mothers now. They're like, let's legitimize the single motherhoodness, so that guys can look at us too, so that we can have a cuckold taking care of our kids. And don't get me wrong, maybe your husband died, okay? Maybe something bad happened to him. I'm not saying that like all single mothers are evil and bad and you should avoid all of them. But for the majority of time, they caused the divorce. They were the ones who filed the paperwork. So now they want another guy to step up. This is why we keep hearing them saying that men are supposed to be men, they're supposed to be providers, they're supposed to take care of us, they're supposed to man up. You're right.
How can it be the single mother's fault? Because after all, she is a courageous single mother.
You're right.
And so a courageous single mother couldn't have created the situation that she's in, could she have?
I don't know. They got it. Somehow the man is abusive, right?
There's always
That
somebody
explains.
else.
Yeah.
I have another example of this behavior. This comes from E. Michael Jones. And he's talking about gay men who are out. Well, I guess it comes from gay men. They have a behavior that, there's something inside that everybody knows, maybe at some level, that this is wrong. And a lot of them have guilt. But how do they avoid that guilt? You know what? We're going to have a gay pride parade. And I'm going to get out there and, I'm going to be in the parade. And everybody's going to come out and cheer. They are going to cheer my dysfunction. And if everybody celebrates what I'm doing, it can't be wrong. Therefore, I can't feel guilty about it.
They are normalizing. This is what I also see with promiscuous women and the big shows. I know that, yes, we need to expose female nature to guys and other women so that they don't do the same mistakes as these women do, right? We need to debunk all of the BS that is happening there. But at the same time, by doing so, they're sort of promoting this same behavior patterns, both in men and women. And women have no incentive to improve. They really don't. They're comfortable where they are right now because they already get what they want from society, from men. So by doing so, by bringing up these women, by talking about these women, talking to these women, we are kind of normalizing this behavior.
Oh, I think you guys are dancing around something here that you might not even realize it.
Okay.
How is it that despite all of these pride parades and all of these systems to try and make you feel good about what you've done, that people still try to have them? We have to keep having these things. Why is it that they still feel guilty despite everyone telling them that they're nothing to feel shame for?
I can tell you why.
I knew that. Yeah, go, Nick.
Okay, because they're still made in the image of God, and still he has not even though he's given them over, they still retain that creation, and he generally does not completely abandon them to their desires so that they could be as wicked as they possibly could be. So they still have that guilty conscience because of that.
So what you're saying is that there is something in us, innate in us, that we are all given at birth, if you will. Different people believe different things about that. Okay. That we know. And I think that's what happened with those women. They knew. They still felt like, after everyone has been telling them for years that it's all okay and that those horrible things that were done to them were horrible and that they needed to be properly punished, and that those women had no fault, that they still felt this desire to go lash out in a pretty vicious and slandering way. It's like, you know that even after the entire world has told you that you did nothing wrong, you know that you did something wrong. And I've experienced that feeling myself. Like, even when, even when I've been told, no, it's okay. It's like, yeah, but I know it was wrong.
Right. I've been there too. I think most people have in some form or fashion, if they're honest.
Self-honesty is a bit of a problem, isn't it?
Right.
Well, sometimes it takes self-discipline. But it takes self-discipline.
Yeah.
There's such thing as a well-formed conscience. So when you make a mistake, your mind automatically goes to, oh, okay, how can I excuse this? How can I say it really wasn't my fault? Your mind goes through all that. And it takes self-discipline to say, no. I'll just own up to it and just say, yeah, this is what happened. And usually once you own up to it and say, this is what happened, the other person says, oh, okay, well, here's now what you're going to have to do to make it right. Or, okay, well, we'll deal with it. And then the situation is over. On the other hand, if you invent some story, some narrative about why it happened and it really wasn't you, then oftentimes you got to tell another lie to make it more believable. And you're about 3-4 lies deep within a day or two. It just spirals. And the longer you keep spinning this, the more you're worried about being found out. It's crazy.
Well, another thing that we don't talk about, and I have experienced this, is the long-term effects on our own psyche of not taking accountability. And this applies to literally everybody. Because I did this. It was growing up, it was like people like well, oh, well, this is no, this was growing up, and these were lessons that my parents actually took the time to teach me. But when you are constantly having to hold the lies, to hold the, I'm not even going to say lies, because it doesn't even have to be that. But when you have to hold something in your head that is incorrect, your brain is constantly spending time on the lie. And Elena and I, we love a show called Lie to Me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they talk about in there is that you can, when you're trying to figure out if somebody's lying, you just sit there and you ask them this. You can just ask them the same question different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And see if their narrative is changing, or they're
Right.
adding more details, like unnecessary details.
Because the lie is so difficult to hold in your head because it's not true. Your brain sort of is default wired to take what's true and work with it. And trying to say untrue things takes an enormous amount of energy compared to just saying, oh, no, you're right. And I've often wondered if part of the sort of societal malaise that we're experiencing right now is people are having to spend so much energy making sure that they keep all their lies straight that they don't have time to do good work.
Well, it
No, they
takes a
don't know. They
physical
don't.
toll on you too.
Yeah.
And they don't know what
It'll
they
destroy
don't
your
know what
health.
to believe from a lying society, anyways. That they're bombarded with every day on social media and the news, and they don't know which narrative's correct.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they are holding two contradicting ideas in their head. They're
Right.
desperately trying to get rid of the truth, which tells them that they are the ones who messed up, right? And they try to avoid it, listen to the confirmation bias that confirms that they are powerful, strong, they can do no wrong. This is what Sitch is saying here. It's cognitive dissonance. It's an uncomfortable feeling caused by holding two conflicting ideas simultaneously. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Because you have one idea is the truth and one idea is the fabrication. And your brain, regardless of anything you've done and what anybody else has told you, your own brain knows what actually happened. And I think this is what makes divorce so corrosive for society, particularly easy divorce, is all of a sudden people can go out and say, oh, well, but he did this. Oh, well, but she did that.
Right.
And that the thing that they did might be true, but they know that that isn't enough. And so they have to come up with that extra reason of, so like that girl on whatever, she said, oh, well, my narcissist, he was a narcissistic abuser. But it's what Rachel said. It's like, yes, the narcissistic abuser that you opened your legs so many times to that he was able to get you pregnant. No, you have culpability here, and you do. You know you made that choice. And so you have to sit here and twist yourself. And when somebody finally, I don't even really think Brian called him out on this. I think he just didn't react to it how she's been told that all men are supposed to react to it, that she loses it. And she loses it because she knows that there really is nothing there. She knows that she has accountability. He has accountability too. I mean, this is a Christian dude, supposedly, and in sex, there's two people. So it takes there's two people to hold accountable here. But so she knows that, but she knows that there's no there, and so now she's angry because all those other people who told her that she had this thing that she could be, oh, woe is me. All those other people who agreed with her, guess what? They lied too.
Mm-hmm.
and her lie wasn't quite as easily believed in the show. I kind of followed up on a couple more questions about the one that had the abortion. Is that what you're talking about? From the Christian guy in the church or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, her lie was not so easily believed, and that kind of threatened her. So, did you notice later on when they did that second stream and explaining how things were? Oh, we were held there for 7 hours, and they were deprived of sleep, food, and water. And then the whole time in front of them were glasses of water. And they were drinking water. But and how do you deprive someone of sleep in a
These
7
people don't
hour
have their own agency.
What?
Couldn't they
Brian
just
didn't,
left?
Brian didn't say, okay, it's nap time. And I think they did order in food. I mean, there is food there or something. Or you can step away and order some. People have to eat in 7 hours. So I'm sure the whole thing is just bullshit. But in order to make it more believable, they have to add more details. It's silly.
Make shit up in this case. Like they just made stuff up. Well, but yeah, they don't have the opportunity to, like, they didn't have the opportunity to lie, and they tried anyway, because that's what we've taught is, like, even if we teach today, and I think this is a tragedy, that even if the lie is obvious, you still have to say it because the narrative is more important than the truth.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think this has been a good discussion.
Because, yep.
And it's good to talk about how people avoid accountability in all the aspects of this. And until you stop and think about it and have this kind of discussion, you don't realize that men and women somewhat equally avoid accountability, but they do it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be accountable, you have to have self-discipline, and that self-discipline is often learned from your father. And for a wife, it might be learned from her husband. But a man pretty much a wife cannot teach a husband self-discipline.
Especially if she's not disciplined herself. I mean, look at this. Well, look what we see now on social media. A bunch of 3 or 4s are trying to teach men how men are supposed to behave, how men are supposed to be accountable and responsible. Why do men leave church? I've seen a lot of like tradcons, they're really unhappy about the fact that men are checking out from church. It's because they try to avoid accountability and responsibility. Who is there to talk about accountability and responsibility, I wonder, huh? The women who are not accountable, who avoid accountability themselves. It's like, why do men listen? Why do you bother listening to the 3 or 4s? Why do you bother listening to single mothers? Why do you bother listening to these transformed, converted whores? I was trying to use a different word, but
you have your effeminate simps that pander to these women for pastors and elders. So.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was trying to get at with this whole thing is that we have an accountability problem here of men too. Men,
Sure.
Right. It's okay to hold people accountable. Anybody accountable. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we need it desperately.
Yeah, a good friend is the one that'll call you on your bull crap for a man, at least. At least for men, like I have a lot more respect for the guys that disagree with me. And they call me out. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Do women have people in their lives that they listen to who, because I'm not one, obviously. Do they have people in their lives who they listen to when and are willing to call them out? Like, is that something we should be normalizing?
Ask Eamma.
I don't really have many people in my life, so so no, I don't. But I don't really know. I don't have many girlfriends, so I'm not really the right person to ask.
Well, they already know me. This is why I said, like, maybe she will give you a different answer.
I think women just back up another woman because they're valuing the relationship. And there's that imaginary 11th commandment. Thou shalt not make a woman feel bad, or thou shalt not hurt her feelings. And so a female friend will not hurt her friend's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll go along with the lie. Men, okay, we don't really give a shit about somebody's feelings. A buddy of mine, his feelings. I may or may not tell him the truth, but after a while you learn, you know what, I'll call him out. And if he's such an asshole that he gets pissed off at me and if friendship ends, oh well.
This is the cost of...
What do we call that? Being a little what?
This is the cost of friendship. This tells you, guys, this actually tells you how committed women are to their friendship, even because true friends, they would call out, right? They would tell you the truth, regardless of how ugly the truth sounds and how mean it is. But because women don't even value friendship, they say sisterhood of brothers. But what does it even mean? I mean, when a girl is being called out by somebody because of her prior sins, right? Because she didn't behave, she created that mess for herself, and somebody just pointed it out. Oh, you hate me, therefore, boom, I'm blocking you. You are no longer my friend. This is the price for woman's friendship. The moment she hears something that doesn't resonate with your belief system, something that doesn't sound nice, she will cut you out. She'll tell you, you are no longer my friend. I've been blocked by these friends on social media.
And then what do? After they do that, they start a trashing you campaign and go and tell everybody else and manufacture this whole story and try and ruin your reputation.
Reputation destruction.
Yeah.
Well, but here's something. She wrote this. And she'll just talk about her behind her back with all her other girls.
Right.
Women love to unleash reputation destruction on other women.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And I was actually thinking to myself, well, is this how women police other women?
Women are awful to each other. They really are.
It reminds me of there was an old saying, women all know women know other women and they hate each other.
I think this is why I don't have many like girlfriends, because I've got no problem calling people out, and I usually try to voice it in a way of like, have you thought of this perspective? So even though I'm calling them out, it's not direct, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it never goes well because I'm not plumping their egos. I'm not going along with the crowd. I don't want to be, bollocks to the sisterhood. They're all fake. They're all fake bitches. So who will revel in something you do wrong, and like Sheep's just said, she'll just talk about you with all the other girls. I'd rather have real people in my life that are going to call me out. And my philosophy is I will never say anything behind someone's back that I wouldn't say to their face.
Same here. I prefer, like, if those girls, they hate on me, come and tell it to my face. Don't do it behind my back.
Oh,
Call me out if you think.
They'll just they'll all go like that, won't they? You know, if you try and
Mhm.
out on it.
Yeah, they will smile at your face and then they will put a knife at your back. Yeah, stab you. I don't have a lot of girlfriends either. I think you are one of the few.
Very honoured.
Yeah, one of the few. I'm very selective with my girlfriends because it's very hard to find women who wouldn't take it personally. Like if you want to help somebody, and this is what we've talked about before, love is correction. If you're not willing to correct somebody's behavior, especially woman's behavior, you have a very bad girlfriend, actually, who is lying to you. If your girlfriend is constantly lying to you, she's not telling you the truth, she doesn't want you to succeed in any way, she doesn't want you to improve, she only pampers your ego, you feel good, but it doesn't serve you anything later on. She's not a good girlfriend. Get rid of her.
This applies to men too.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Yep.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
I've learned the friends that I really care about are the ones that tell me the truth. And the ones that we can disagree, and okay, we're still friends. Those are the ones I value because they're the ones that'll be there for me. They're not fair weather friends.
Yeah.
So what you're really saying is we need to bring back the good friend, the good friends, the friends who will hold you accountable. Really, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, try it.
Like,
Try getting a friend who will hold you accountable and see how that goes after
yeah,
a period of time.
you should see the comments in our Bible study. Well, you can't, but Steve might be able. He's got a link. So we're not supposed to reveal the comments, but I'll out myself. So we hold people accountable, and they get on my ass. And you know what? They're right.
Yeah.
They were good
Well,
friends.
And if he's referring to what I think he's referring to, sorry, Bible study, we were egging him on because if this is what we think it is, then he's so spicy though when he's not behaving in this way. We love it.
Yeah, we love the spicy version of Nick with the spicy comments. Yeah.
I wanted to add to what Steve was saying about the type of friends you want. You want ones that will hold you accountable, but also they should hold themselves to account as well.
Eamma, read this one. This is for you.
Yes. Although it's been relegated to the corner because I actually bought the plant a proper moss bowl. So I need to find another use for the moose. That sounds. I'm a poet and didn't even know it.
Yeah, we need good friends, guys. We really do. And it applies to both men and women. And there is no friendship today. No good friendship. Because everything is based on feelings. If he makes you feel good, or if she tells you the things that you want to hear, that appeal to you, it must mean that he or she is a good friend. But remember, go back to the Bible, Genesis. Right? What was Satan saying to Eve? He was telling her, how did he get her? He was telling her what she wanted to hear. I don't remember the exact words, but I can dig them up. He was saying, do you want to be like... Yeah, Nick, could you tell it? Yeah. Do you want to be ever knowing like God?
Nope. You'll be like God, that eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge. He says basically, if you eat of this fruit, you'll be like God.
Well, he was going to give her the knowledge from the tree of good and evil. Knowledge of good and evil. And you know what?
He did.
The devil wanted to empower her.
Yes, exactly. And this is what we see is happening now in our society. I just see devil speaking. everywhere. When I see that somebody tells me what I want to hear, but I have self-discipline, I can say, no, this is bullshit. I'm not buying into it because I know where it's coming from. It's coming from the devil. All of those messages that you hear on social media that appeal to your emotions, to your feelings, to your heart, they are all misleading you guys. This comes straight from the devil.
And yet you still want to hear them sometimes. I'm telling on her.
I'm not perfect, okay? We all have.
It's fun to be able to tell on her.
But this is why you need self-discipline, because, okay, sometimes you allow it to happen to you intentionally, right? And you know that you are being lied to. As long as you realize that you are being lied to and you're not really serious about it, right? Okay, but come back to self-discipline. We need to stay focused here.
My point is that we're all going to do this.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to do this. It's, I mean, to use the biblical term, it's the fallen nature of man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the purpose, I think the important thing is not to try and say, oh, I'm never going to do this. Yeah, you're going to do it.
Last words, right?
Right, yes. But it's to build people and even systems into your life that when it does happen, somebody can call you out, and you've been called out before, and you have the maturity really to sit down and say, you're right, you got me. And that's all accountability is. Accountability is for when we do not meet those standards that we set ourselves. I don't meet my standards, with fair regularity. And I'm okay admitting that. But
Yeah.
I have people in my life that call me out when I don't. Some of them are on screen.
So is anybody else in Red Pill or Manosphere talking about accountability in the way we're doing it?
No.
He can't hold hoes accountable.
Yeah, as long as what I notice in the manosphere a lot, and I can be mistaken, okay, but these are just my observations. They say as long as you whores are honest about you being that and doing that, you're fine. You're welcome here. You're welcome here. Come on our shows. We will have an interesting discussion with you.
Well, and I want to turn this back on the red pill a little bit. Men, we don't get to try to hold women accountable day in, day out without being able to hold men accountable too.
Yeah.
And that's going to look like sometimes I see this argument a lot, and it bothers me because what the argument is, oh, well, but I'm loyal to my friend. Okay, but that's why the sisterhood can't. That's a sisterhood argument. The sisterhood values loyalty to each other over accountability.
Yeah.
Now, you can say,
No.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to hold this guy accountable publicly.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
You can say that, but I would put a little asterisk on that. If you're a public figure and other men don't see you holding that man accountable, it's going to be tough to really sell the idea that you have actually held that guy accountable. Public figures have a higher bar.
Well, they should have a higher bar, but do they really? Maybe people are just scared, or they don't really want to hold public figures accountable because they have the clout, they have the money. And this is where I think our society has become so corrupt and compromised by...
Okay. Politics.
Yeah.
We don't hold our politicians accountable.
Mm-hmm.
either.
So I'll make a distinction here. Like sometimes you can approach public figures privately
Mhm.
about public sins, expecting them to publicly change, right?
Mhm.
But if it's a private sin, there's no need to take private sins public.
Yeah, correct. And
You don't need to just keep trying to muckrake. But you should have a loyalty, even if he's like your superior or something like that. You should have a certain deference to him, seeking to protect his reputation and trying to get him to own his own crap, but you're not trying to destroy your friend.
yeah, and this is a tough one.
That's loyalty.
Yeah, this is a tough one because it can very easily turn into, oh, well, just don't call you. We just don't call people out publicly. Well, if
There is a time, but
right, and it's we're going to struggle with this because it's so easy to go to the simple answers and just say, oh, well, just don't do this. Oh, just do that. Not always. If something happens in the public space and you do something, or honestly, if something becomes public that was private, I'm not saying that you're going to have to, publicly lash your friend, but you are going to have to publicly address it. And in the case of something where it's an accountability problem, you might have to go to your friend and say, hey, look, we're going to have to talk about this publicly for a little bit so that people can see that what it looks like to have somebody hold other people accountable.
Well, and this is what I see happened with Fresh and Fit recently. We all know, right? As much as I love the guys, but there are no serious consequences for what Fresh did, or at least like we don't really see them. And yeah, we blame it on the girl because she's the culprit there as well, but they are kind of both involved in that situation. And like I don't see that there are consequences for Fresh.
Well, I'm okay. I'll push back a little bit here. So notice how Fresh started that stream with, guys, I've talked with or it was Fit. Myron said, look, I've talked to him behind the scenes. I've told him he was an absolute idiot, and he said, but I'm not going to discuss it anymore. And that's just, that's just how we're going to do this. And yet, throughout that stream, he actually goes back to sort of publicly addressing how Fresh was not really behaving well, because Myron can't help himself but make examples out of this poor behavior. He's been doing it so long that he didn't even realize he was doing it to Fresh. And
he did it, yeah.
And that's actually a good thing. But that's because Myron has the discipline and has been holding people accountable for so long that he can't help himself. So, and I was just thinking about that because watching the stream going, even though he said, I'm not going to address it anymore, later on in the stream, he actually goes back and says, Fresh, you're being an idiot. Here's what you did wrong, because he's so used to it. So, but guys, that's what it looks like when you're actually holding people to account. You won't be able to help yourself.
But he was still supporting him.
Oh, yes.
Of course, yeah.
Hey, you're still my friend, but man, you were just an idiot here.
Yeah.
And okay, that doesn't threaten the friendship unless the other guy gets really upset and acts like a woman.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. Don't do it, Fresh. Don't do it.
well, Fresh isn't going to do it, but if the guy starts acting like a woman, we have a whole other kettle of fish that we've got to open up with that guy there.
Well, what I saw by watching other live streams, also by Donovan Sharp, and some people really wanted Fresh to be kicked out from the show. Would you consider it like as a holding Fresh accountable, or are you okay with him being on show?
It was a private action. it's somewhat reputation is related to the show, but it's not a Christian show.
Right.
They're not holding themselves and preaching morality on
Right.
there.
That's true.
I don't think it merits booting him off the show. Plus, he's a partner or part owner in the show.
It'd be very difficult to.
Right,
So
right.
It's just not practical, and wouldn't be warranted anyway.
Yeah, I'm with Steve on this. I think the people who are calling him out and asking him to step down, those men of you who are doing this is for you. Step out of your emotions for a second. Put down the red pill rage. You don't need that here. Yes, Fresh screwed up. He has been roundly criticized for it by his private friends, his public audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like the appropriate steps were applied, and you can bet that he's going to be much more careful in the future because of the pain he's had to go through over this.
Yeah.
And if he's not, well, so the first time, okay, shame on you. The second time, though, like if this happens again, now then the community's gonna have to say, hey, look, this dude has a problem. Like he has an accountability problem that it makes him untrustworthy. We have not gotten there yet. And
Right.
and that's the other thing that we need to be careful of because we're so emotional and so vindictive, and in men it's kind of sad to watch because we're not really good at it, but we can destroy people really well. And so no, when you have held somebody to account, when they have come around, admitted their mistakes,
You just move on.
you're done.
Yeah.
Men, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And be done with it, please. Let it go. Because that's what rational I don't want to say non-emotional, but that's what rational people who have good emotional regulation do. They deal with the problem and they move on.
Yeah. Well, and this is what Donovan Sharp was also saying. I brought it up because I saw a few comments from people, like trashing Fresh really hard for what he's done. And it's, all people are going to make mistakes to some extent, right? It's just how we come out of these mistakes, whether we've learned the lessons and whether we improve or not.
Hey, Nick, what's the word? Grace?
Yeah, mercy, grace and mercy.
Grace
Yeah.
and mercy. Mm-hmm.
Understanding.
Well, now look how
has not Christ forgiven you? I mean, does it mean like you forget? No. I mean, doesn't mean that there's sometimes temporal consequences for their actions, but you can't. Sometimes there's a path for reconciliation. Even if there's no path for reconciliation, you can forgive.
Well, I want to make a point here, though. First, there's the accountability, and then there's the forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the forgiveness, take accountability for what you do.
Yeah.
well, Fresh or Walter did take accountability, and he acknowledged he did wrong, and that he created this, and he did something stupid and all that, and that kind of kept the situation from escalating more than it already did. But he was such a public figure, it still escalated somewhat. Now compare that to Lindsay and Kendall. They're stiff with whatever. Have they taken any accountability? And since they didn't take accountability, the situation keeps escalating. And they created the whole thing because they didn't want to be held accountable for something that was implied, not even directly said to them. And it would have been forgotten about. But now they keep escalating it because they're so adamant to avoid accountability.
Yeah, they would much rather, like Rachel was saying. I think that these are the same two girls that we watched, right? she was saying that they would much rather cancel the shows that they were invited to get more clout, more attention for themselves. The moment something went wrong on those shows and Andrew Wilson challenged these girls, they refused it. They didn't want to take any of this. But you came to this show, so you should expect it. And then they didn't like how the show was run, that they got challenged. You chose to come to this show. You know the rules, right? It's not your territory to demand certain things. Go back to your Instagram or OnlyFans platform and do it there.
But they'll be remembered for what they did to get more subscribers.
Yeah, right.
Well, that just, the word craven comes to mind. Like if you're stirring shit just to, for like, okay, guys, like that'll work in the short term, but no one will stick with you because they know you're going to stab them in the back because you've done it to other people before publicly. So why, I might stay for the drama, but once the drama's done, I'll leave. And that's why I'm not, all this drama shows, I'm like, okay, but eventually people want something else.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Great show today, guys. I really enjoy our discussions. I really do. I might even be able to write an article about this topic, about accountability. I've written one already, a longer article that my husband hasn't read yet. He promised to read it and then he didn't.
I skimmed it, realized I was going to need a whole day to read it. I had other things.
I know it's a long one, guys, but I think it was a good article. We'll see. Maybe I'll cut out a few things. So yeah, I'll deal with it in a few days and see what I can maybe remove from there. But so I was.
Can we conclude that your article was TLDR?
No, my articles are not TLDR.
Yes, they are.
No, if you expect short summaries, well, they are kind of short, but they are pretty lengthy because I have to explain it from psychological, from red pill perspective, so they can be a little long to read. Yeah. But we'll see. I might be able to write about accountability. I think I've already written about accountability before, but this specific topic, it kind of inspired me to write another article. Yeah.
Oh no, what have we done?
Okay, here Shipray. Hey, Elena gets paid by the word, and she wanted to get your nails done that week. Thank you, Ship.
If she gets paid by the word, she's not getting her nails done. She's buying a new computer and she's going to have a whole new audio video setup by the end of that article.
Right. Yeah, guys, please go subscribe to my Substack and tell me what you think about the topics. Try to read the articles till the end. I know they're long. National debt paid.
Oh, Sheep, you're killing it over there. You're killing it.
Sheep is very detailed and very good with money. On one of the videos where I put the dollar sign instead of, not dollar sign, euro sign, he noticed it and he brought it up and he said, Elena, I told you not to charge Anita with foreign currency. That was so funny. Yeah, check out the Anita More Cats saga. I have a few comedies for you there. Yeah, and I'm going to do another one today. Oh, and then Eamma will join me for one of these short videos that we are doing with Anita, right, Eamma? We have some ideas. Yeah. So she will be a new actor with me with the Anita saga. Cool, guys. I think, does anyone want to add anything at the end to summarize the topic, or we are all good?
You know, people can avoid accountability only for so long. People find out, the narrative breaks down. People see through the bull crap, but there's one who always sees it all, and he's going to hold everyone to an account one day. And you cannot shift blame. You cannot evade it. He sees it all and he knows it all. Yet there is mercy in Christ.
Yeah, and this is something that I think we should spend some time talking about, that regardless of how much you repent, how much you pray, you can't undo your prior sins. You still have consequences for your actions, like that Nola chick.
That'll have to be a different stream.
Yeah, we will talk about it. Yeah, because this is something that women are being told that as long as they are honest, as long as they admit that they did this, it's fine, but there are still consequences to your actions. Yeah. We'll talk about it next time, guys. Remember to please like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments. We appreciate your feedback. Tell us what you think about these topics. Tell us what you think about accountability. And support the new channel, please. Yeah, go to the Resurgence. I'm going to pull it up here if I can find it here. Subscribe to the new channel by Nick from Christianity Unplugged by Stephen Plutarch, The Resurgence of Sanity, please. Okay, we will do more shows there. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, guys.
Sure.
Let me take us out. Welcome to Elena's Barre.